The horror stories of partition of India by the British still haunts us Indians and Pakistanis. Now with Palestine and Israel in the news, let's look at how this infamous divide and rule policy by the British was in a way responsible for the chaos these two communities find themselves in. So let's go straight to my video, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so.
Colonialism resulted in the creation of many borders all around the world that did not take any account of ethnic, linguistic or religious solidarities of communities, as border making was an exercise by European bureaucrats who were after all outsiders.
Jews were a community that were persecuted and exiled for a very long time.
And the homeland of Jews, the territory in and around Jerusalem, was historically conquered by many groups like Persians, Romans, Egyptians, etc. And from 1517 to 1917, the place was ruled by the Ottoman Empire. By that time, Jews were a minority there. Their pain of exile is captured in books and songs like Rivers of Babylon. Even though they were a fragmented community, they had a strong longing to organize and to go back to what they perceive as their homeland. In 1896, Jewish Austrian journalist Theodor Herzl, the founder of political Zionism, published an influential political pamphlet called The Jewish State, which argued that the establishment of a Jewish state was the only way of protecting Jews from anti-Semitism. Ottoman-controlled Palestine, the original home of the Jews, was chosen as the most desired location for a Jewish state, and Herzl petitioned the Ottoman government for a charter, which was obviously rejected.
During World War I, the British tried to fuel this desire of the Jews into getting their help in the war front.
The Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour submitted a letter of intent supporting the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This Balfour Declaration was a strategy to win support from the Jews worldwide.
The Ottoman Empire had declared jihad against the Allied forces. So to win over Arabs, the British also promised the Arabs a united Arab country, covering most of the Arab Middle East if the Ottoman Turks were defeated.
On the basis of this McMahon-Hussein correspondence, an agreement between the British government and Hussein bin Ali, Sharif of Mecca, an Arab revolt was initiated at Mecca on 1916. Sir Henry McMahon had a role in Indian colonial history also.
If you would like to know more about his contribution to India's borders, please watch my video of the same.
The aim of the Arab revolt was to create a single unified and independent Arab state stretching from Syria to Yemen, which the British had promised to recognize.
The British also got into a secret agreement with France on how to divide the Ottoman Empire between them mostly once the Allied forces would win.
So, when the World War I ended, the Ottoman Empire was defeated by the Allied forces. After the Allied forces' victory, a Paris Peace Conference was held to set the peace terms and the various wartime negotiations. The Arabs wanted Palestine to be a part of the proposed Arab state that was promised to them, and Jews asserted for their homeland. The British and the French drew new borders and partitioned the Ottoman Empire. The British broke their promise to support a unified independent Arab state. When the territories formerly under Ottoman rule was divided out, Sharif Hussein was granted authority over the Hijaz kingdom, but not over the great Arab kingdom as the British had promised. In 1920, Britain assumed the responsibility for Palestine under the League of Nations mandate, the Mandate for Palestine.
These mandates are basically the removal of sovereign power from the defeated countries and conferring them upon individual states of Allied forces.
The boundaries were left unspecified in the beginning, and later on in 1922 it was decided that Palestine will not be a part of the new Transjordanian territories. In accordance with the Balfour Declaration, the national home of the Jewish people was to be established alongside with Palestinian Arabs who composed the vast majority of the local population. Jews had already started migrating to Palestine from 1880s, but soon after the Balfour Declaration, the numbers skyrocketed, and with the encouragement of such Jewish institutions like Palestine Jewish Colonization Association, the Palestine Land Development Company, and the Jewish National Fund, they started buying more land and creating Jewish settlements. Obviously, the Arabs opposed this move as it will create problems for Palestinian Arabs who have been inhabiting the territory for long.
During the Mandate, the area witnessed two nationalist movements, one the Jews and the other the Palestinian Arabs.
The British rule continued throughout the 1920s and 30s, and the British policies at that time fed into the inter-Arab Jew rivalry and inter-Arab rivalries. Beginning in 1929, Arabs and Jews openly fought in Palestine. During the Second World War, the Holocaust, or the state-sponsored murder of millions of Jews, created more problems in Palestine as thousands of persecuted Jews migrated to Palestine.
But this time, the British imposed a limit on Jewish immigration to appease the Arabs, and this provoked armed Jewish resistance against the British.
Even though the world sympathized with the Jews, the British refused to lift the ban on immigration. Jews carried out several raids against the British because of this, and there were loss of life in both sides. Violence reached at a height with the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 39. Many Arabs, Jews, and even Britishers lost their lives in all these clashes. The British was finding it more and more difficult to control the situation. So at the end of World War II, in 1945, the US took up the Zionist cause. Britain, unable to find a practical solution, referred the problem to the UN.
UN in November 1947 voted to partition Palestine.
On May 14, 1948, Britain withdrew from Palestine and the Jewish community there issued the Israeli Declaration of Independence and the State of Israel was proclaimed. The very next day, forces from Egypt, Transjordan, Syria, Lebanon and Iraq invaded the new state. By the war's end in July 1949, Israel controlled more than two-thirds of the former British Mandate, while Jordan took control of the West Bank and Egypt captured Gaza. In 1949, UN brokered ceasefires left the State of Israel in permanent control of this conquered territory. The departure of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs from Israel during the war left the country with a substantial Jewish majority. Gaza was under Egyptian rule till the 1967 Six-Day War. Gaza became a center of political activism during the First Intifada, and under the Oslo Accords of 1993, it was assigned to be under the direct control of the newly established Palestinian Authority. Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza in 2005. After many wars and clashes and two intifadas, as Israel and Palestine controlled territories, not coming into a permanent agreement about territorial control is leading to continued violence between the communities. Thank you for watching.